Shalom, Akim, Shalom, Kal Halal, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, HaKodash. I want to send double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to Yakim out there pushing the word of sincerity and truth. This is the brother Ariala. And today I just want to kind of give an update on the mark of the beast, the M.O.B, as we now speak, because you can't even speak what you want on YouTube anymore. But touching on this, and the brother Wakari Kwam out there from London sent me an article concerning central bank digital currencies and kind of the rollout that M.O.T.B or China had just brought to the forefront. So I just wanted to touch on it because we're seeing the gradualistic nature. We're seeing the systems of control come out of the C-19 jabs, and now digitally we're seeing the infrastructure being laid for them to be able to put everything together. And that's why I always, lately I've been starting my videos off with Romans 13, chapter 11, Romans chapter 11 verse, let me get it right, Romans chapter 13 verse 11, and it says, and that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. We're at the cusp of major prophecies coming to be laid down here across the world, specifically in the West, Babylon the Great, in America, which is the whore that rideth upon the beast. That's America. And so we're seeing things culminate in things that what I like to call the algorithm of events, piece by piece by piece, come together for a snowball effect of a lot of things happening at one time. Now, with that all being said, I want to play this right here just to kind of give an introduction to central bank digital currencies. And then I wanted to go into a couple of articles and explain those articles, and we'll just finish off with specifically the main prophecy that we read about in Revelation 13, so we can see its relevance to everything that's going on, okay? So I'm going to run this back, and I'm going to play this.
Everyone, my name is Amin. I'm a fintech entrepreneur, and today we're going to talk about CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. These are basically a version of the currency that you know, the paper currency, that lives in some type of blockchain, which has the properties of a blockchain currency. So let's talk about it, try to demystify it, and see where it's relevant to you. Alright, so let's get straight to it. What is CBDC? It's basically a version of a sovereign currency that lives inside the blockchain. Some type of blockchain, not necessarily Ethereum, not necessarily any type of other blockchain, but some type of blockchain. So many countries are exploring right now doing that. One of them is China, but the US is catching.
Now, if you want to go a little bit more into the blockchain, there's an algorithm that I did that's called World War III algorithm, the mark of the beast, digital currency, where we touch on the blockchain technology and its relevance and how it works.
Catching up, and the Bank for International Settlement is also catching up on that effort. What does this mean? Well, this means that countries...
There's a World War III algorithm that we did that's called World War III algorithm, the big picture, and we go over the Bank of International Settlements and how they're like the hub of all the other central banks to basically converge all the world currencies together for what will eventually be a worldwide system of control and allowing you to operate, all right, in the system, okay? The big picture, World War III algorithm, the big picture.
Are today exploring ways to issue their own sovereign token or digital currency. Digital currency is basically currency that lives in a blockchain. It has all the properties that are attached to digital assets. Where it's relevant? It's relevant because right now, from a fintech perspective, this will change probably most of the cycle that you know how currency travels through a financial system. So since it basically changed the nature of the currency, the infrastructure that actually exists right now might not be relevant anymore. It needs upgrade. And that's where fintech entrepreneurs come in, because fintech entrepreneurs can provide simple solutions that solve problems where they can capture a lot of market share. So for example, today, where is actually the CBDC, the adoption curve? What you want to know is, where are we at? Okay, what can we do? So let's say, this is a discovery process.
Now he's going into the mindset of entrepreneurship, which I don't even want to touch on. I just want to talk about how this concept is starting to flow into the markets. And whenever you see concepts start to flow into the markets, what I mean is they begin to put it on the news. You starting to see it on mainstream media. We're starting to see more articles here. The Wall Street Journal. We're starting to see CNBC. We're starting to see these places mention it. That means it's already been going on for years. When it hits the news, they've already had most of the research and groundwork laid out. You getting it late. They've been talking about this. So now it's starting to hit mainstream media, articles, and news outlets. They've been working on this for a good minute. Okay, now this article is the one that was sent to me. It's in the Wall Street Journal. It says China creates its own digital currency, a first for major economy. Right? It says 1,000 years ago, when money meant coins, China invented paper currency. And we always say there's no new thing under the sun. Just as M.O.T.B was the first to kind of come with paper currency through the Silk Road Project. That's something that we've been talking about. The Silk Road Project is how goods and services were moved from the Far East over into Europe, down into the Middle East and Africa. What happened? You had basically IOUs be put out on paper. This started the whole paper currency trend. So now we're seeing the transition in that like mindset of them kind of creating new means for trade through paper currency. Now everything is going digital, which lines up with prophecy, as I said earlier. It says, now the Chinese government is minting cash digitally in a reimagination of money that could shake a pillar of American power. It might seem money is already virtual, as credit cards and payment apps such as Apple Pay in the US and WeChat in China eliminate the need for bills or coins, but those are just ways to move money electronically. China is turning legal tender itself into computer code. Cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin have foreshadowed a potential digital future for money, though they exist outside the traditional global financial system and aren't legal tender like cash issued by governments. China's version of digital currency is controlled by its central bank, which will issue the new electronic money. It is expected to give China's government vast new tools to monitor both its economy and its people. By design, the digital yuan will negate one of Bitcoin's major draws, anonymity for the user, meaning you don't know who this person or that person is that's sending it. It's just a number on the blockchain, right? It says, actually, what I'm going to do is go to the next article. Boom. And then I want to play this clip from this article here. This is in CNBC. China leaps into central digital bank currency, but similar progress eludes the U.S. Okay? China has leapfrogged much of the developed world in its establishment of digital yuan, and they want to pretend like there's some type of intergalactic battle between China and the U.S. And it's, this geopolitical war, geoeconomic war. When in the backdrop, the elites, the super elites, they run both China and the U.S. They run the banks and the major corporations that are within China. All the manufacturers like Nike and all these other major corporations that, move product around the world, they move it through China. But the owners of everything is still the Vanguard Group, the Rothschilds. It's still, these huge, the banking families that run both sides. They don't care. They just want the total control. That's why we read here, 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter. And when you go to the 46th verse, it says, and thou, Asia, so thou that are partaker of the hope of Babylon, and art the glory of her person. Woe be unto thee, thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself like unto her, and hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee. And when we read Revelation, the 18th chapter, it talks about how the kings of the earth have committed fornication with Babylon the Great, with Mystery Babylon the Great, that whore that rideth upon the beast. How did they commit fornication with her? They were drawn into her financial systems. They were drawn into her culture and way of predatory capitalism. And we see that same thing happen with China. You know, the same thing is happening with China. China has basically taken hold of the U.S. Western economic system, and now they're trying to hurry up and digitize it. You know, they're trying to hurry up and be at the forefront of it. Who's going to benefit mainly from it? The super elite, because they're the ones who are going to be running everything anyway. Doesn't matter if it comes out of the U.S. first. Okay, let's keep it funky. The prophecies are still reigning. It's not like Moab is going to be at the forefront. No, it's just going to go through the Moabite people, but they're not going to be in total control. Right? Verse 48 says, Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. Therefore saith the Most High, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. And the glory of thy power shall be dried up as a flower, the heat shall arise that is sent over thee. Thou shalt be weakened as a poor woman with stripes, and as one chastised with wounds, so that the mighty and lovers shall not be able to receive thee. And it says the same thing when we go to the book of Revelation, the 18th chapter. Go Revelation 18. Let's read that. Revelation 18, verse 2. I'll just read quickly. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen. It has become the habitation of devils, the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. Now, is kings literally having sex with a nation? No. It's talking about philosophy, ways, things that are against the Heavenly Father, spiritual fornication. All right? That's why it says this in the next sentence. It says, And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. See? So world trade and the organization of kind of this global system has allowed these merchants of the earth to wax rich. All right? And China's a part of that. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of the midst of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High have remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled to her double. And what's that? Oppression, slavery, control, all those things are going to come back on Babylon the Great and all the people who were co-patriots with it. Verse 7 says, How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, I am no widow, and I shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. And we read that same thing there in 2 Ezra 15 concerning Asia, all right, concerning Moab, right? For strong is the Lord power who judgeth her. Now, going back into this article, it says central bank digital currencies are a growing source of interest around the world as cryptocurrencies flourish. The U.S. Federal Reserve has taken a more deliberate approach to the issue and is unlikely to make any reactive moves to the development of China. They don't have to make a reactive move. They already have it in place. They just want you to pretend like that they're going through some type of democratic diplomatic process. And then, it's all this political BS. When, just like we talked about the C-19 mandatory jab. We already knew that. They already had it. It was already known how they was going to move. Right? It says China's leadership in the digital currency space is turning a larger spotlight on U.S. initiatives, but similar efforts stateside aren't likely anytime soon. With its entry into the still sparsely populated world of central bank digital currency, China takes a society that already leans heavily on electronic payment and mainstreams it. It also gives the government a crystal ball into its citizens' spending habits and lends the nation's currency an edge on the global stage. Right? I want to listen to this kind of like debate that Bill Foster is having. The questions he's raising. You have to listen to Esau when he's talking, because Esau tells you what he really intends to do, but he says it very subtly because he is of the seed of the serpent. So he's slick with his tongue. He's slick with the way that he presents information. Thou shalt not surely die, Eve. Go ahead and eat that fruit. Go ahead and eat that fruit. You shall not surely die. Listen to the serpent when he speaks, and he'll let you know what really he's trying to do.
Is acknowledging that an anonymous, untraceable digital dollar is not a viable option for our country.
So he's talking about basically kind of how anonymous digital dollar, kind of like Bitcoin and what people understand in the mainstream as cryptocurrency, is the whole purpose of it now is to be able to work and function outside of the central banking regulatory system. So they're already saying, that's not really viable for what we're trying to do.
Or the free world, because its ability to be abused for money laundering, terrorism financing, ransomware, and so on. Is that principally correct?
I don't think I am on the record for that, but I'll go on the record now for it.
Nor am I on the record, but I would agree that we need to be very careful about the use of a digital currency for illicit finance and an anonymous currency.
When you see these people, how do you trust them? I mean, just look at her. Ugh.
Makes that much harder to control.
Yeah, I concur. I think it's sort of logically impossible. And so on the other hand, I believe that the Chinese approach to digital currencies that give the government immediate and unconditional access to all transaction information will be equally unacceptable to Americans and to most citizens of the free world. And therefore, a digital dollar will be crucially dependent on having an effective authentication component. That is a secure and legally traceable and maximally privacy-preserving way for participants to authenticate themselves.
Listen to what Satan is saying. Let me rewind this a little bit.
An effective authentication component. That is a secure and legally traceable.
A secure and legally traceable.
And maximally privacy-preserving way for participants to authenticate themselves.
A privacy-preserving way for our participant to authenticate themselves. So basically, you will function one-on-one with the AI. So no one else can, it protects your privacy because you're only interacting with the system, with the computer. Everybody doesn't have access to your information. The government has access, but it's authenticatable. That allows you to be traced low key. We ain't gonna say it right in your face. That's the mark of the beast, people. That's the M.O.B.
As a unique, legally traceable individual, a secure digital ID, and it must be backed by a trusted court system and a clear legal regime to determine the conditions under which the participants might be unmasked.
And participants might
as
be
a digital,
unmasked.
And it must be backed by a trusted court.
It has to be backed by a trusted court system.
And a clear legal regime to determine.
And a clear legal regime to determine what?
Determine the conditions under which the participants might be unmasked.
He's saying that if we need to expose you, we need to have a system that has the right to do that. You see that? So basically, you're not tracked, but you are tracked. If we need to get up in your business.
As a digital dollar, if it's to be used internationally, we're then going to need a digital ID system that operates internationally.
We're going to need a digital ID system that operates internationally, global.
At least among the free countries of the world. I'd like to thank you both for beginning engagement with authorities in other countries on central bank digital currencies. And I was wondering where you see this discussion going as far as a secure digital ID and a means of authentication across boundaries.
And they already have this in place. We already talked about smart cities. We already talked about digital IDs on the previous algorithms. All right, they're all coming to fruition piece by piece by piece. All right, piece by piece by piece, they're putting all these things together. All right. Now I'm gonna skip down, read this last part of this article, and then finish out. It says the benefits of adoption of what digital currencies. All right, this whole system of the central digital bank currencies, right? It says digital currencies have multiple benefits. They provide access to the financial system for people who can't afford accounts or otherwise don't have access to banks. At a time when digital transactions already are expected to total $9 trillion globally in just a few years, development would allow governments to catch up to what's already been happening around the world with payment systems like WePay, Alipay, and SwiftPay. Okay? It says, but there are also privacy concerns. Central bank digital currencies don't work like Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, as transactions will not be anonymous. Fed officials have expressed concern over privacy issues in implementation. That hasn't stopped global interest in digital currencies, though. At the very least, China's lead in the central bank digital currency space somewhat breathes down the neck of the dollar when it comes to cross-border payments. That influence is more likely to be felt in the immediate Asian sphere, where China already dominates. The digital development also provides an insurance policy for China that, should it run afoul of global regulations and find itself the subject of sanctions, it will still have a way to transact business. And as war looms, as these kind of geopolitical and geoeconomic wars on the surface of things loom, that's going to come more and more into play. And they could be having cyber attacks, banking attacks, and to justify, we need to switch over to a safer digital system that we can control. Just like we talked about with the C-19 jab, they're going to bring up different means and reasons why we need to regulate and have control over who's got the jab. What company did you get the jab from? Do you have a fake jab passport? All these type of things can be done through blockchain technology and the issuance of a global digital currency. It can be more than just currency. And that's why we say he calls it all when you read here in Revelation the 13th chapter. Revelation the 13th chapter and the 14th verse says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Right? So there's going to be a regulatory process that if you ain't down with this, you're out of there, Jack. Verse 16 says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save that he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the causation of these systems to come in place, piece by piece by piece. China rolling out its central bank digital currency is the beginning of probably multiple nations. Matter of fact, there's an article that the brother sent me talking about how the Bank of Japan, here in this, it says Bank of Japan starts 1 year digital yen central bank digital currency trial. So all of these nations are getting ready to roll these type of things out, systematically over in the East, and then it'll start to flow as Europe gets on board, and eventually, America, so to speak. Then by that time, we'll probably be in the midst of all-out war. We're seeing skirmishes with the state of Israel, Iran ramp up to control those regions. We saw the blockade in the Suez Canal and how that had an effect on global markets. All these things are necessary for prophecy to come into play. So I just wanted to do that update because I felt like it was interesting. I felt like it was a major move in these nations mainstreaming blockchain, digital currencies, and its relevance to how we're going to move in this world soon. You know, not 20 years from now, not long down the road. Definitely in our near future. We're talking about in the next 18 to 24 months. We can start seeing some major changes happening, and if there's a major event, you can see it happen even faster. So with that, man, I want to say, call hello, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shah Bahashim Rakah Hakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to the Yaki. I'm out there pushing the words of Syrian truth. Shalom.